Hello, world and universe. Welcome to the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth. And if you're new to the channel, please hit that like and subscribe button. And for my continued followers, I want to say thank you. And this is an opinion-based video channel where I share some of these true crime stories and things that are taking place all around us in our country and sometimes throughout the world. Giving you an opportunity to open your eyes and your ears to your surroundings. And for those who have been supporting me, I want to thank you and please continue to do so. And I do have a Cash App at $ Trevor Donald 20. So Cash App $ Trevor Donald 20. And if you want to continue to contribute or make a contribution, I thank you in advance. So let's get going with this one straight out of New Orleans. This was a couple that were having their travails, and it ended up in a very bad situation. Here we go. New Orleans 21-year-old woman killed after 31-year-old father of her child allegedly ran her over. A man accused of running over and killing his young child's mother in New Orleans could have his troubled history used against him in New Orleans Parish Criminal District Court. St. Tammany prosecutors told Fox 8 31-year-old Anthony Cooper was involved in a domestic dispute with the same woman at their shared residence in Slidell just last year. New Orleans new court documents out of St. Tammany Parish reveal Cooper, who's charged with second-degree murder, once faced resisting an officer and false imprisonment charges. However, as prosecutors explained, Cooper was never indicted because the key witness in the case couldn't testify. Cooper is accused of running over his child's mother, 21-year-old Anastasia Rayborn, with his vehicle late Monday morning, March 11th, in the St. Roch neighborhood of New Orleans. Assistant DA Bruce Deering said in January 2023, a St. Tammany Parish deputy responded to a domestic-related verbal dispute between Cooper and Rayborn. This case is frustrating. So they had a history of domestic issues. He's 31, African-American guy. She's 21, Caucasian female in New Orleans. This is one, and it says, this case is frustrating. This is one that nobody had a crystal ball and the benefit of alert us that, hey, this is the case that is going to continue to escalate and result in the most unfortunate outcome that you could conceive, said Bruce Deering, Assistant DA for St. Tammany Parish DA's office. Deering told us, according to the arrest report, Rayborn was attempting to move her belongings out of the shared residence when Cooper returned home. Deering said the deputy tried to help Rayborn get out of the house, but Cooper told her to stay. He said Cooper physically resisted arrest, and Rayborn interfered with the deputy's effort to make the arrest on Cooper. Before Cooper's case went to the court, Deering said the responding officer resigned after being investigated for accusations of some work-related improprieties that made him unavailable as a witness for the state, which compromised the case. So these two individuals, Cooper and Rayborn, had issues. There's a 10-year age gap. They have a 2-year-old child. And, of course, they having young people issues where they're not getting along. The police have been called several times. Family members have been interviewed and said they had a very volatile existence for the 2 years they were together, the 4 years that they've been on and off. He met her when he was 27 and she was 17. So they had this particular incident, a domestic violence case. The case was further complicated by what we refer to as a dual arrest, meaning both parties in the domestic matter were arrested, which is not terribly uncommon, Deering said. Deering said the DA's office agreed not to pursue charges in exchange for Cooper surrendering a gun that was found inside the home. He says sometimes we're just handicapped or disadvantaged by certain obstacles in our path to prosecute cases that prevent us from securing what we think is the most appropriate outcome. And it's just a sad state of domestic violence and how difficult it is to successfully prosecute these kinds of cases. Fox 8 legal analyst Joe Raspanti said this isn't the first time a law enforcement official who has supposed to serve as a key witness was deemed unavailable. So this wasn't the first time. New Orleans, if you look at the history of the New Orleans police force, they have had a history of corruption, and there's been all kind of documentaries and law shows on the history of New Orleans. They've had a history of corruption. Hopefully they can clean that up. He says, I remember back in the 1990s in New Orleans when out of the 1,350 police, I think 130 of them got either fired or indicted. And there were a lot of cases that were made by the NOPD that went by the wayside because the officer who needed to be the guy testifying was out. He either got fired or, like I said, indicted. Drugs in the 90s and the 80s was heavy in New Orleans, like many of our major cities, major urban cities in America. And they would just dismiss the charges. He told Fox 8 that Cooper's history could be used against him in this case involving Rayborn's death. I think it absolutely can under Rule 404B. They have to have what's called a prior hearing and say we're going to use elements of a prior act that shows a pattern of behavior. And I think even though the charges were dismissed, you can do it with things that were never charged that just show a pattern that this guy had before the incident that is going on to be at trial. So they're going to show that this guy had a history of domestic violence with this young lady, and Cooper is being held on a $2 million bond. So the young lady was getting out of the car. They were having a dispute in the car. She gets out. She calls him an effing bitch. And he gets upset, takes their Ford Edge SUV, runs it right into her, but he hits her so hard that when she was on the sidewalk near a building that he ran her into the building and the car into the building, breaking the front entrance of the brick front, and the car ended up inside the store. So yes, she called him an effing B. He accelerates the Ford Edge SUV, hits her, runs her all the way into the wall and into the store, and kills her. 911 officials got there. She was still breathing at the time, and she ended up not making it. And I gave you that backstory to tell you they had a long history of domestic violence. There's a huge age gap. I'm seeing quite a few in today's time where you're seeing African-American men, a little bit older, 10 years, 5 years older, with young Caucasian women. This interracial dynamic is playing itself out at a high premium in today's time. I have no problem with it. I think that's at the advent of rap music, cultures. Rap music has brought multicultures and all kinds of people together, along with sports and entertainment. But you're seeing a high preponderance of black men with white females. You don't see a lot of black females with white guys. And I think that now that he committed this homicide, that unfortunately, race doesn't matter when everything is going well, but race matters and rears its ugly head when things don't go well. And you got to know that the state of Louisiana, down in the South, the old Confederacy, that this 31-year-old African-American man running over and killing his 21-year-old girlfriend and mother of his daughter, race is going to play a big part. And you know, Angola Penitentiary, one of the worst penitentiaries of all time in the history of the United States of America, will be waiting for him. I guess his defense will be that that it accelerated on his own, and the anti-lock brakes didn't work, and it did it on its own, but I think that's going to be far-fetched. You're seeing a high um, level of interracial dynamics in today's time, and I think there's a cautionary tale, even with me being an older guy that grew up in the '70s and the '80s, that you always had. There's always been an old element of stereotypes and racism on the white side and the black side. I think if you look at older white folks in these multicultural and interracial dynamics, especially in the South, I think some people may whisper and not like it, especially for their young ladies, their daughters, their granddaughters to date outside of their race or men of color. And then I think that you see a big dynamic that I might get criticized for. I think that many of these young white females are picking the wrong black men. It sounds like this gentleman was taking Anastasia down a dark road and was taking advantage and using her. And with his age gap of being 10 years older than her, he met her when she was 17, he was 27. There's something wrong with that in and of itself that has to play in a dynamic of control. You're 10 years older than her, you're damn near 30, and she's just entering she's in the middle of her teens and high school age. So there's an inappropriateness right there and a psychological manipulation, I think, that plays that part. Because why not at 27, you're not dating somebody 25 or your own age, no matter what color she is. So I think you'll find, and women have to be careful, you'll find men that are targeting young females, and I think you'll find black men that will target young white women because they think they're more easily controlled than black women. The stereotype that black women have a tongue on them and have a voice and can be stubborn and they're not gonna do whatever somebody says, and they're quick to say you ain't my daddy, where white girls are more amenable to getting along. So I think this gentleman, Mr. Cooper, there was a huge age gap. He has a criminal history. It doesn't sound like this young lady did. They ended up living together. I don't know what her personal circumstances were, and he took her down that road. And as I say, you'll see whether you agree with it or not, you will find African American men or black men, that, especially if they're a little older, that will target and pick young white females because they're more controllable. And then when she starts calling him a bitch, and their relationship started fragmenting, I guess he decided that he was going to start committing physical harm and domestic violence. They had a history of DV, and the end result was that he took the car and rammed it into her and then her into a wall, and the car went straight through the front brick wall of a store that was abandoned. And now that he has to deal with the court system for second-degree murder, and he has a $2 million bond, as I said to you, his age, his race, his prior history will be an ultimate factor in how they will decide how to deal with him. And I truly believe, with the heavy preponderance of violence that's taking place in many of our major cities, New Orleans has its own corruption and and violent gun violence issues and just violence, period. And they're going to make an example out of some of these individuals, and the interracial dynamic is not going to help black older guy, young white female. And so we have to see where this case goes. This is a guy, what is his name? Cooper. Her name was Anastasia Raybon, and we have Cooper here, Anthony Cooper. So we'll have to see how this situation plays out for Mr. Anthony Cooper, and I don't think it looks very good. Tell me what you think. This is a case, here again, of a New Orleans male SUV driver slams girlfriend through wall, killing her after heated argument. Uh, Tell me what you think. This is the Trevor Donald Experience. Manifest your truth in a positive, righteous, and God-fearing way.